When the night has come and the land is dark and the moon is the only light.
Hey, where you going, man? Come back. It went with the music. Your hat is whack.
So darling, darling, stand by me.
I'm sorry. I don't know what's worse. Joe Resinello at the front line with Joe and Joe. If you're just joining us, Joe Pasillo. I don't know what's worse, Joe Resinello. Over my shoulder, my wife and my son are watching the debate. Right, I could hear Joe Biden literally like about to die. Okay, so I don't know what makes me more sick. Listening to him lie, all right, and that's because that's all he's doing. That's why I'm not interested in watching the debate. I see him lie all the time. I don't need to hear him lie. Or the guy eating the cockroach. Okay, I don't know what makes me more sick than that. And I'm sorry, the other clip was just hysterical with the guy go, wait, come on back. You go, just keep beating on the thing. But on a serious note, for a second. First of all, wherever you're watching this video, hopefully you're not watching the presidential debate because to me, it's basically meaningless. The only thing I could tell you from what I could glean and what Joe Resinello said is Trump's keeping his composure. I think it's probably the best thing he could do, Joe Resinello. Keep his composure. Don't go off the rails. Let Biden implode and start talking gibberish because that's what he did. You know, Trump actually won the abortion part. Not that we would agree with it, but we won't talk about that right now. But the thing is, yeah. On a more serious note, eating cockroaches, people think that that's funny. But, Joe, that's coming soon to a theater near you. Or should I say, coming soon to a 15-minute city near you. Because no matter how much people say things are far-fetched, Joe, that's not that far-fetched, to be honest with you. I mean, you know, if you think about it, you look at Canada, which is a disaster. I don't care what anybody says. The only thing I would say is that my understanding, Joe, you can illuminate me a little bit on this, is that the Conservatives won in Toronto. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah, they won Toronto St. Paul, which is a strong liberal area. Basically, this is the first time that the Conservatives were competitive since 1980.
Wow.
Trudeau says that he now hears the concerns and frustrations of the people after the by-election loss. I mean, after 9 years, now you hear the concerns and frustrations of the people. I mean, this is actually monumental in many, many ways. Just to give you some numbers, 1993, plus 30 liberals. 2000, plus 33 liberals. 2021, plus 23 liberals. And in this particular election, the Conservatives won by 1.5%. Again, this is a strong liberal
That's a
area.
big swing.
And huge. And the Conservatives did not think they would win before the election. So that's an indicator. It does seem that people are starting to wake up. I mean, to be truthful with you, is this what it took to get bludgeoned, though? In all honesty, it took this to be bludgeoned to death.
Well, maybe some of those people actually, like you made a very good point. Justin Trudeau now all of a sudden wants to say that he understands the frustration and the concerns of the Canadian people. What the truckers convoy didn't convince you of that, Justin? And the way you went after those guys, those men and women, mostly men, but there was men and women who were driving those trucks, the way you went after them in extra legal ways, you don't think the people of Toronto might say to themselves, wow, he went after blue-collar people like that. He wasn't going after rich people like that.
There have been some conversation around the Jewish population because of anti-Semitism that's been going on in Canada, that was a tipping point in that particular area. Remains to be seen, but there's a lot of conversation going on the internet about that.
Well, let me tell you something. I don't care whether you're talking about America or Canada. If you're just joining us here at the front line with Joe and Joe, we are going live across, across social media. So wherever you're seeing this, please help us. See, it's an interesting question when it comes to the Jews, because wherever you stand on what our policy should be towards what's going on in Gaza, okay, the fact is the champions of this I would say, I mean, I've heard anti-Semites my whole life. These guys take the cake, and they're all leftists. They're all leftists. And the Jews might be saying to themselves, both in Canada, maybe in Brooklyn, maybe in Paterson, New Jersey, maybe they're turning around and say, or Passaic, New Jersey, and they're saying, you know, I usually vote Democrat, but they're being quite hostile. And you really, again, wherever you stand on what our policy should be, you really can't blame them for that.
No, absolutely not. I mean, I was in Lodi, New Jersey on Sunday, and I saw a car with spray paint on, well, you know, like that white, it's not like paint, but you could make like a sign on your windows, all anti-Jewish. Israel kills babies. This is in Lodi, New Jersey. I have a friend that lives in Teaneck who I work with, who's Jewish. He said people are driving through the neighborhoods shouting. So, I mean, like, that is scary. Like, if you're Jewish and you live there and you mind your own business, you have nothing to do with what's going on in Gaza. And frankly, irregardless of what your position is, you don't have a right to terrorize people.
Well, see, that's
not
my
an
problem.
American way. That's
They
not
showed
the
a clip.
American way.
No,
it's not any way. It's just wrong.
Well, listen, I think it was at UCLA, okay, or Berkeley, one of them, okay, one Scrumbiad college out in California, and a Jewish student's trying to get by. Like, you walk to your class, you walk down the sidewalk, and they're blocking him, okay? And again, this doesn't come from the point where, you know, I need to defend Israel or Jews or our foreign policy.
There's nothing to do with that.
It's got nothing to do with it. The fact is, get the F out of the way.
Absolutely.
Because if I'm a Jewish father, and they're blocking my son from going to class, I'm going to the administration. And I'm going to the administration. I'm saying, I pay for my son's tuition to come here. If he's walking to class, you get these effing people out of the way.
Well, that's exactly right. And they should. And that's wrong. And I think that had something to do with that vote in that particular area. And frankly, good for them.
Hey, well, listen,
we should do the same thing. Catholics should do the same thing. We don't.
I was just going to say Catholics ought to do the same thing and say to themselves, the Democrat Party is off the rails, okay? You see, I would caution some of our Jewish brothers and sisters too when they think there's contention between Catholics and Jews, okay? If you think that that's bad, go look out your window, because those people aren't Catholic, the ones that are calling for your destruction. They're not Catholic, the ones that are blocking your kid from going to class. These are mostly radicals, mostly probably atheists, secularists, communists, Marxists, okay? They're the ones who are showing they're your real enemy. So I would just throw that out there. But let's pivot back to Canada for a second, because I think Trudeau is trying to, I don't know, is he going to try to save himself with working class people by targeting the rich? I don't know. But evidently, he proposed or he was able to get through a capital gains tax hike. All right. Did he get it through, Joe, or he's proposing?
He did, but to be honest with you, the way it sounds, and we're going to play the clip, it's not just targeting the rich. It's going to also hurt the middle class once again.
Let me play the clip.
Doing announced in their last budget, and they just voted on it. Okay, the Liberals, the NDP, and the Bloc all voted to hike the capital gains tax. What that essentially means is that when you sell these types of assets, well, you now have more taxable income. It is a tax hike. It's the capital gains tax hike. Now, we have to just cut through some of the spin right here, because one of the things that the government is trying to spin you on is, oh, this is about tax fairness, tax fairness, tax fairness. Well, hold on a sec. If this was really about tax fairness, and if you really were just worried that lower and middle income Canadians are paying too much tax versus other income levels, well, then somebody's taxes would be going down. Right? It wouldn't just be a tax increase, but all that is happening are that taxes are going up. So this isn't about tax fairness. This is about a government who is trying to take as much money from Canadians as it can get away with.
And isn't that always the case when the left raises taxes, Joe? Listen, they never tax the rich by themselves, okay? Remember something about the United States and the personal income tax, Joe Rossinello. I think it was passed in 1914 or 1917. They sold the personal income tax, all right, as a tax on the super duper wealthiest people in America, and it was at a very low tax rate. 20 years later, everybody was getting taxed. Okay, so why is it that blue collar and working class, middle class people have to get it through their heads? They're never going to stop with the rich. The rich don't have enough money for what these leftists need. They need to go down to the middle class because they know we actually control a much larger pool of cash. If you look at all the paychecks out there, the one you earn, Joe, the one I earn, and tens of millions of working class and middle class people, they know that's where the money is, but they sell it, Joe. They sell it as a tax on the rich. It's a lot of BS. It's what it is. Trudeau is full of a lot of BS.
I absolutely agree with you. And here's another thing. The tax that's on the rich is like a blip on the screen for them. However, for the middle class and the working poor, that really hurts. And that's what isn't communicated. Even with the inflation, while inflation is bad, clearly the rich can afford it. Justin Trudeau can afford the inflation. That's why he's fine with it. However, the middle class can't. And the working poor surely can't either. So ultimately, what that is a tax directly. It's if you ask me, it's punishment. It's punishment on the middle class. It's punishment on the working class, and it doesn't affect the rich one iota.
Well, no, because listen, rich people are going to invest no matter what. If you jack the capital gains, I don't know what it is right now in Canada. If you jack it 5% or 10%, all right, some people are going to be a little bit more aware of that. Most rich people are going to continue to invest. They're going to continue to invest in the stock market. You're not going to stop that. But as Vernon, by the way, Vernon, thanks for the compliment. He said our show's great. Thank you. Here's a good question. Vernon asked it. Retiring farmers who want to pass along their farms, they got to pay a tax. If that farm is worth more than what they paid for it and they drop dead and they pass it to their kids, guess what, Joe? The kids got to pay a tax on that, which by the way, I am absolutely opposed to inheritance tax. I think the inheritance tax should be at zero. It's already taxed income. The property's already paid for. It should be taxed at zero. You should not tax the children because the parents pass along, in this case, like Vernon saying, a farm. Farmers are all of a sudden rich, okay? They're going to get jacked on a capital gains. That's what I mean, Joe. That's what I mean. It's like they're not fooling anybody.
It's a shame. It really is a shame. And people, frankly, have to just turn off the news, stop listening to the podium, and start looking at your paycheck. Start looking at your refrigerator. That should tell you everything you need to know. Honest to God, look in your checkbook. The rhetoric, all these guys do, all they do is deflect, gaslight. They basically toss bad words at people, calling people this, calling people that. Stick to the issues. It comes down to this. Can you feed your family properly? Can you put fuel in your car? Can you heat your house? These are basic things. Can you pay rent?
Right.
Can you? If you can't, that's a problem. That means the taxes aren't working for you. That means the government isn't working for you. And that's a problem. And Trudeau owns it. He owns it. He can't deflect it onto someone else. That's why turn it off and pay attention to the basics. If you do that, it's everything you need to know.
Well, let me give you a couple of ABCs. Let's keep it with Trudeau for a minute here at the front line with Joe and Joe. Let's keep it with him, okay? He attacked the truckers. I'm going to keep going back to that, Joe, because that was so egregious. And it's against everything that the left supposedly stands for, which are working class people. What are these truckers? Rich people, Joe? Are they bankers or stock and real estate speculators? They're working people. He went after them. Now, all of a sudden, he's saying, I understand the frustrations and the concerns of the Canadian people. Well, but you didn't understand it then. In fact, you tried to squash them. Now you're trying to pander to these people by saying we're going to raise taxes. Joe, we're going to raise the capital gains tax. We're going to raise the capital. It's going to hit those rich people. I'm going to give it to you. Justin Trudeau is the biggest fake there is. I did a video the other day that I posted on social media about AOC being a fake. I've said this before at the front line with Joe and Joe. She's just an actress. Trudeau's just an actor. They do their lines very well. They look, I guess, to some people like they're very pleasing to the eye. Okay. Kind of like, well, AOC's off the rails, but Justin Trudeau's kind of a little bit more muted. All right. He's an actor. He's a puppet on a string. He's the young version of Joe Biden, is what he is. Joe Biden's an actor too. His puppet master is Obama. That's what you got there. So it really is sickening that, like you said, Joe, you got to tune out. I'm going to give you a hopeful thing. I'm going to throw it over to you. Okay. Twitter is now a source of information than for more people. All right. When I mean information, I mean news for more people than mainstream media. Did you know that?
You know, I didn't hear that statistic. I did hear it from Elon Musk. That he said basically that Twitter is the best source of news that's basically out there in the world.
Tons
But
of
I did.
people, Joe. Tons of people.
Well, that's
Tens.
good.
Yeah. That's what I mean. You know, the thing is this, because remember, Joe, if I say something or you say something, like we're on social media right now, we're on X right now. Okay. We say something, somebody can respond to it. I can't respond to Dana Bash or Jake Tapper when they're spewing their lies on CNN, or Joy Reid when she's spewing her lies. I can't respond to them, right? But on social media, you can. That's why a lot more people like social media and they love X. I'm telling you, Joe, X is going to explode to the upside because of the fact that people value free speech. And that's the truth.
I
That's
hope
the truth.
so. I hope you're right, to be honest with you.
Well, the thing is this. I mean, you're dealing with mainstream media. Again, I'm listening to it over my shoulder. My wife and my son are watching the debate. I don't know what compelled Donald Trump to do a debate on CNN. My bad, Joe. My bad.
Trump, and I'll tell you as well, is I give him a lot of credit for doing this debate on the terms that were effectively set by Biden. Hosted by CNN in Atlanta without a live audience would be the equivalent of Joe Biden agreeing to do a Fox News hosted debate in Alabama with 3,000 live audience members. So I give Donald Trump a lot of credit for that. If you're going to lead the country, you got to be able to show up, and that's exactly what he's doing.
I want your opinion on this. Do you think that Trump going on CNN, agreeing to their onerous regulations, no audience, all right, protecting Biden, you think it might backfire on the Democrats?
Well, it could. I watched a little of it. Joe does not look sharp, in fairness. That's being objective. He's mumbling. He doesn't even look good in his face. Obviously, Trump had some success on CNN. They invited him to a town hall, and it was very successful. So I think he wanted to leverage that. He thought maybe he could reach potentially some folks that wouldn't see him on another channel. I think that was the idea, but I wouldn't have done it. What I would do, frankly, is, to your point, I would go on alternate source media. I think the CNNs, the Foxes, they're dead. ABC, it's dead. You go on Joe Rogan, you go on Russell Brand, you could have Elon Musk interview you on X. You could go on like
Joe and Joe. He could come
well,
on.
there you go. There you go. But that's what I would have done. And frankly, those type of like conversations would get, like, no lie, 100 million views. Like, you could look at like an interview from, say, Russell Brand on the upside. He'll get over 500,000 views.
Right.
That's more than a CNN show, like by far.
Do you
So
think? Let me ask you. I got a quick question. I'm going to throw it right back to you here at the front line with Joe and Joe. Do you think that maybe Trump knows that if he was to go, maybe not Rogan so much, but if he went to Tucker Carlson, Russell Brand, maybe he thinks by going on CNN, knowing that the CNN audience is ready to see him go like ballistic and go unhinged, maybe he's going to spend an hour on CNN just to show people he's very calm, he's very measured, he knows how to answer the left, he's not afraid. Okay. And maybe he could pick off some votes in the middle, because people will, after the debate, will go, well, they tell me Trump is crazy, but he didn't look that crazy.
Well, I think that was the strategy. I think it was to speak to an audience that he wouldn't usually speak to potentially pull them. But to be honest with you, there's a lot of risk there. I mean, like, you have clearly they're going to give the advantage to Trump. He knows that. Everyone knows that.
Biden.
Biden. I mean, that's any person that's objective. And I wouldn't have done it. I am not inviting people into my house that hate me. I think the press has to prove themselves again. You want a seat at the table? Well, you have to be objective. I understand that people have biases. I get it. It's beyond that. It's absurd. It's
Right.
absurd. It's not like I don't even comment on it anymore because it's just that absurd. And I am not going to engage with somebody who, frankly, either is going to just flat out lie or is simply out to destroy me or put like a segment of what I said to basically incriminate me. I'm not inviting that type of person into my house. I'm not engaging in that conversation. And all I would do is this. Here is a memo. Every day, it's a memo. I'd vet it with lawyers and I'd hand it over to them with facts. Do whatever you want to do with it because that's what you're going to do anyway. I'm not engaging with you because you're not adults.
Right.
Like, if you want to be adults and be professional and basically report the facts fairly, fine. You're invited to the party. But if you're not, you're not. And frankly, they're not. So we're not having the conversation. You see, that's the type of hard-nosed politics that the Republicans I shouldn't even say the Republicans because they stink too.
I know.
Anyone who basically cares about people. If you care about people, they hate you. So guess what? You are not invited to the party. And I'm not having the conversation. And that's how I think. And I got news for you. If you stop them from coming in, maybe they'll change.
Well, they did a little bit. If you remember, Republicans stopped going on CNN. You remember a couple of years ago? In other words, because they were constantly called racist. They were disparaged.
That's what I'm saying. Like I'm not going. Like I'm not going.
And then when the new regime came in, running CNN, then they started to woo. There's a word for you, Joe. They started to woo the Republicans to come on. Say they were like, well, what's going on? It's like, dude, your reporter, so-called reporters and journalists and interviewers call me a racist.
That's right.
Because I'm not in favor of 10 million people coming across the border illegally. And I'm a racist. Why would I come on your station?
That's right. And that's what people, in all honesty, that's how I would treat it. I would not, you're not invited. You want to be a professional? You want to be an adult? Then you're invited when you are one. If not, have a good day. And that's just how I would handle it. And I wouldn't have done it. Vivek puts an angle on it. And there's, I'm not going to say it's, he's entitled to his opinion. And it, there's some truth to what he's saying. It's whatever, you particularly feel. I personally, though, I think the press is absolutely, positively the enemy of the people. They're absolutely, positively part of the establishment, absolutely, positively propagandizing all of the information. And that is part of the reason why people, frankly, are misinformed and, frankly, walking off the cliff. They're walking off the cliff. They don't have the facts, and not everybody digs deep for them. Let's be honest. That's just reality. And they take a lot of what these people say as gospel. And frankly, it's nothing more than spin and propaganda. That's Fox News too, by the way.
Oh, yeah. No.
Let me just be very clear for people. They stink too. Turn it off. Do your own research. There are plenty of smart people that if you want to do research into an issue, whatever the issue, say it's immigration, there are plenty of smart people. We have access to such information through the web. I'm talking about professors. I'm talking about economists. I'm talking about smart people, not some pundit who has an agenda. Turn them off, all of them. You'll be better off. You'll be more informed. And frankly, the country will be better off.
Listen,
that's what I do. I don't listen to any of them. Not a one.
You offered when you see the problem is too, when you're thinking about, let's say, what the government could do. If you're just joining us here at the front line with Joe and Joe Pasillo, Joe Rossinello, we're way in the breach. People think what the government could do. Like we say, what could conservatives do to fight against the New York Times versus Sullivan? If that decision was revisited, then CNN and MSNBC, and they'd lose their protections. Joe, you just made the best point. Get your news. Listen,
sit.
Most people who provide information, let's keep it with X for a second, okay? Most people who provide information are taking it from a news source of some kind, and they're posting it on X, okay? Now, they get views for that or whatever the case might be, but that's a news item. Now, I could choose to look at it and hear it. Now, somebody else might post something else, okay, that might counter that. But what does it require me to do?
Think.
I got to use my own brain. Put the remote control down. And that goes, hey, listen, I couldn't tell you, Joe Rossinello, the last time I watched Sean Hannity. I couldn't tell you.
Dude, I don't watch anything. Fox is nothing more than regurgitated talking points. They don't connect the dots. They're no different in many ways than CNN. And if you ask me, they're there to rile up the base. Anytime Fox pushes an issue a little bit too far, they get reeled back because that's not what they're supposed to do. They're not there to connect dots. All they do is regurgitate talking points, no different than what CNN does. There's no thinking involved. Anyone could do that. Any person who has, say, a law degree from a better than average law school that could read a teleprompter can do that. Anyone. There's no skill in it. There's no investigation to it.
Let me throw in
none, zero.
I think that the two guys, one more so than the other, the two guys on Fox, Bill O'Reilly, okay, and then Tucker Carlson. Bill O'Reilly, I thought was a guy, even though I had a lot of issues watching his show and he'd go off the deep end. Bill O'Reilly struck a chord with the American people. Bill O'Reilly was trusted by the American people. That's why his show was so wildly successful. And I always thought that he didn't come across as just repeating the same thing over and over again, that he actually encouraged his listeners to go find out for yourself. I'm going to give you a piece of information. Fired. Okay. They found a reason to. I don't believe it for 1 second. They fired him. Tucker Carlson's much better at that. And much more. How should we say, gives much more credit to his audience to go and find out their own information and does connect those dots and does get into the nitty gritty and does roll up his sleeves and does ask you to use your own brain. What happened to him? Fired.
A journalist should be doing digging, shouldn't be regurgitating talking points. A journalist should be looking at original sources. That's what a journalist, there's none of that. That's all, it's all garbage and it's all propaganda. And here's the beauty. It's all there for you. You can do that. If you follow, and this is not following people wearing a tin hat. These are smart people. Smart people, economists at Columbia. It could be like, and here's another thing. They don't necessarily have to be part of your camp. Like, for instance, I get my Ukrainian news from Glenn Greenwald, who's liberal and gay. But you know something? His reporting on the Ukraine is spot on, honest. He doesn't have an agenda. That's where I get my news on the Ukraine. I get my news on the Trump trial from Alan Dershowitz, who is liberal, self-professed, a lawyer from Harvard, the youngest tenured professor at Harvard Law School, and voted against Trump. But I get my news from him because he's smart and he's fair. You see, I don't belong to a camp. I want to know the facts. And you can do that if you follow certain people on certain topics. Oh, I want to know about the abortion issue. Follow this person. I want to know about the Trump trial. Follow that person. I want to know about the economy. I want to follow this person. Right. You can do that. Why do you have to listen to Jake Tapper? Why do you have to listen to Jesse Waters? All they're doing is reading regurgitated crap. Right. It's just garbage. They don't connect dots. There's no investigation. And frankly, all they're there to do is rile up the base. They're not there to connect dots. They're not there to inform you of anything. Right. They want to affirm you in your seat. Oh, I feel good about myself because they basically say what I say at my kitchen table. Well, sometimes I want to be challenged. Sometimes I want to hear a conflicting opinion. Sometimes I want to say, wow, that was different. I never heard somebody say that before. You get none of that from Fox. You get none of that from CNN and MSNBC. Forget it. So turn it off. Just turn it off and do your own research. You'll be better off.
How do they explain this decision?
Debate is on Thursday. 90 minutes unfettered between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. First time either has been in any debate since their last one 4 years ago. But last time I spoke to you, you were hoping to be on that debate. Do you feel you should be there?
Yeah, I should be there. I mean, honestly, nobody should be there because nobody qualifies under the criteria at CNN established, and because nobody has 270 delegate enough, are on the ballot enough states to win 270 delegates. I'm the closest. Neither of them have any delegates at this point. Plus, the other criteria that I have 4 polls from 12 separate polling organizations that put me at 15% or over. I met that. And CNN arbitrarily threw out one of the polls from the approved company's Monmouth in an arbitrary way. So they are keeping me off the stage. But the worrying thing is this. This is the first time in American history that a private for-profit corporation has owned the presidential debates. Biden and President Trump colluded with CNN to exclude the Presidential Debating Commission. Since my uncle's premier debate with Nixon, the first one in history, this has never happened. And the worrying thing is that the DNC and the RNC are putting tens of millions of dollars into CNN. So there's a conflict there. Plus, the CNN announcers on some of the biggest, most monumental decisions during their presidency, like the lockdown of the American public, the CNN announcers were cheerleaders for those lockdowns that Biden and Trump that shifted $4.3 trillion in wealth to this new oligarchy of billionaires.
So let's leave it there. He's absolutely right. He's absolutely right. Why is it, and I'm sure they have their spin, Joe, and I'm not going to say I know all the details of it, okay? But why is it the Commission on Presidential Debates involved in this? Why is it that the RNC, like I don't get the RNC. We'll get into that in a second. But here's my point. What cause did they have? What BS did they come up with to leave that guy off the stage when he is a viable third-party candidate? Viable.
100%.
Right?
And he makes a very valid point, and he should be there.
If they gave him a shot, he could have been, he could have gotten in there and messed things up. I'm not saying he would have gotten elected, but he could have messed things up like a Ross Perot or a Pat Buchanan. Okay, remember, Pat Buchanan was a threat to the establishment Republicans, okay? And then the Republicans attacked Pat Buchanan and they put Bob Dole in there, okay? The safe guy who ended up losing to Clinton. But the fact is, they love to complain about the threat or talk about the threats to democracy all the time. This guy's a threat to democracy. That guy's a threat to democracy. You know who's a threat to democracy? CNN. You know why we know that? Because they wouldn't let RFK Jr. on the stage.
Well, that should say something to the people, because RFK should be there, but the party system does not represent the people. They represent the party. I've listened to a lot of RFK interviews since he's kind of threw his hat in the ring. It's very difficult for a third-party candidate to run for president, and it's deliberately difficult. I don't know if people know this, but Joe Biden would not pay for Secret Service protection for RFK. He's been paying out of his own pocket. That's to basically deter him from running. And that should trouble people. That says to me that they don't represent you, and that should bother you. Ultimately, the party system is not about the people. I'm going to say it again. It's about the party. We have to get our country back. That's what I want. I want that more than anything. I will never, ever vote for an establishment candidate, Republican or Democrat, as long as I live, because our country does not represent people anymore. And this is an example of it. He should be there. I want to hear what you have to say. Let me hear what you have to say. It's about me, right? Wrong. It's not about me. It's about the party. And the party isn't about me. The party is about special interests. That's the Republicans and that's the Democrats. And I'm fed up. And here's another thing. He is a Democrat. He's a Kennedy. He is a Democrat. Joe Biden isn't a Democrat. He's controlled by radical men and women. Kennedy is a Democrat. He's no different than Howard, what was his name? Schultz, that was going to run the last time. He's a Democrat, and they refuse to acknowledge him because they're not Democrats. I've said this time and time and time again, Joe. This is not the Democratic Party of your Irish grandfather who worked on the path. These are radical people that have done harm to regular people. It's about time people open their eyes, look in their refrigerator, look at their checkbook. They basically just let in 7 to 10 million people that are going to hurt the working poor because they're going to compete and take their jobs and lower their wages. And they know it. All for what? For votes, because they don't care about people.
Votes and money.
And people can't, you can't connect that dot. More reason why you turn off CNN and Fox News, because they're not about connecting that dot, because they don't want you to talk about that. They don't want you to know it, because they're not about you either. People, again, Joe, I swear, I just look at the landscape. It's like watching a drug addict destroy themselves. It's like watching a drug addict destroy themselves, and they just keep using, they keep eating it up, and they destroy themselves. This country is a shell. The American dream is dead. It's completely dead. People can't buy houses. You're going to go to college. How's the regular person going to afford college? What kind of job are you going to get? You're going to owe $300,000, $400,000 coming out of college. What do you think you're going to get? It's dead.
Right.
And they killed it.
Right.
The party system killed it. And he should be on that stage. It says something to me. We're not represented. That should bother you.
No,
everyone.
It should bother anybody that the fact and let's be clear why he's not on that stage, because of words we can't use on social media that begin with C and end with D with a V in the middle that caused a problem back in 2020. He's got a lot to say about that. He was talking about that in that clip. He mentioned the $4.2 trillion that you mentioned on the show a million times that was transferred from the working class and the middle class going to the corporations and the super duper rich people. Now, again, if RFK Jr. was even moderate on abortion, even moderate, I could vote for him. As it is, he's right in lockstep.
No, I'm not voting for him. I respect.
No, I didn't
him,
say that. I didn't say that. But here's the thing, though. He would shake things up enough that he would get people thinking, and that's exactly what they don't.
And that's a problem. If you're a journalist, you should want that, right? Right? Isn't that what a journalist does? That brings news to people, but they're not journalists.
Right.
None of them are. It's a dead field. It's a dead field. And it's sad. And again, people should connect that dot, Joe Pasillo. Honestly, people, they just put their blinders on. They want to just listen to what they want to listen to. They want to listen to friggin' Jesse Waters. Oh, Joe Biden just drooled on himself. Who cares? We know he drooled on himself. How about we listen to something that makes us think a little bit, even challenges us? How's that? Right. We don't just sit in our own echo chamber. Say, "Wow, I never thought of that way." That's interesting.
Well, you talk about real journalism, okay? How about this?
Greatest journalists of our age. He spent his entire adult life bringing previously concealed facts to the public about what our leaders are doing. That is the very definition of journalism. Yet Julian Assange is not a hero in America's newsrooms. He's an enemy. Assange made the mistake of offending the media's real constituency, which is not the public, but the powerful. For doing this, journalists accuse Assange of being what they are, a political operative posing as a reporter. In 2010, Assange and his organization, WikiLeaks, published an enormous cache of secret documents that revealed what the U.S. government had been doing in Iraq. Included was a 38-minute gun sight video that depicted Apache helicopters mowing down a group of civilians in Baghdad, including 2 Reuters employees.
There's more that keep walking by, and one of them has a weapon. Roger, receive. See all those people standing down there? Oh, yeah. That's a weapon. Yeah. Hotel 26, Crazy Horse 18. I'll bet an RPG. All right, we got a guy with an RPG. Having a fire? We got a guy shooting. Now he's behind the building. Come on, fire. Hey, Roger. Keep shooting. Keep shooting. All right, we just engaged all 8 individuals.
The video was a problem for the government because officials had lied about what happened that day. At one point, the Pentagon claimed the video didn't even exist. Assange proved that it did.
Let's leave it there. Assange proved that it did. Now, you just got done, Joe Rossinello, here at the front line with Joe and Joe talking about real journalism. I'm not a particular fan of Julian Assange or of WikiLeaks, but if he publishes things that make me uncomfortable, and as long as he's being truthful and he's putting it out there like he did with that clip, then guess what? He's doing his job.
And the American people should know that. If your government is willing to spend your money, you should know that. And then you should decide through your representatives if your government should go into that conflict. That's what a constitutional republic is, right? Wrong, because we don't have a constitutional republic and our vote means nothing. That is the fact. You should know that, irregardless of what you think of Julian Assange. And by the way, they put him in prison. He spent 5 years in a real jail. A real jail. For what? For telling the truth?
Right.
For telling the truth? This is what these benevolent countries of the West are all about? Oh, they're so benevolent. They're so good. They're so for promoting democracy all over the world. There's nothing more democratic than free speech and freedom of the press. There you actually have an individual that is actually giving information to people, doing investigations, and they shut him down. What does that say? That says you're controlled. That says you're spoon-fed. And frankly, I don't want to be spoon-fed and I don't want to be controlled. We're born free. God created us all to be free. This country says that we're free. But are we free? We're misinformed. And when you're misinformed, you vote wrong. And when you vote wrong, you slit your own throat. You slit your own throat, which means your children suffer, which means your wife suffers, which means your grandchildren suffers, which means the future of the country suffers because you're ill-informed and they want it that way.
Let me tell you something. It's so important that you're saying that. You want to know why? I know that I practice what I preach. You want to know why? Because I challenge blue-collar, middle-class Democrats to start questioning their party and what's going on. You know why I point the finger at them? Because I've questioned and you've questioned the Republican Party. That I've said and you said on the show a million times, I regret my vote for George W. Bush twice. I regret my vote for Mitt Romney and John McCain. I regret my vote for that. I did what you just said. I said, I can't listen to these people. I can't listen to everything they spoon feed me with. I didn't like Julian Assange because Julian Assange, in my view, made George W. Bush look bad. And in hindsight, guess who was wrong? Me. I was wrong. And Democrats, blue-collar Democrats, like you just described, your old grandfather, the Irishman, the Italian that works on the path that says, oh, I don't vote for Republicans. I don't vote for Republicans. You got to question what's going on. Because like you said, Joe, it's your life. It's your family. It's your kids. It's the taxes that you have to pay. But if you don't question it, I mean, I cannot see anybody not questioning this modern Democrat Party. I'll question Trump. I'll question him. I'm going to vote for him, but I don't think he's establishment. I think we're fair. I think we're on firm ground if we say he's not established.
Well, he's anti-establishment. I'll be truthful with you. He's not radical enough for me.
Oh, God.
I'll go on record saying that. Donald Trump, I'll be truthful with you. I think he gets a bad rap. I don't think he's as radical, nearly as radical as they try to paint him to be. He just threatens their power base. It has nothing to do with you. This is another thing that people can't get through their thick head. It has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with them. It has to do with them. He threatens them. That means he's bad. Orange man bad because he's coming after me. I don't care about you. Get it through your head.
Well, perhaps along the lines of everything you're saying, his real sin for them, okay, aside from getting elected,
anti-war.
Well, he's anti-war. He pointed to the press and told them out, you're the enemy of the American people. So you know that they don't like that. He recently said if he gets reelected, the first thing he's going to do is abolish the Department of Education. You know they don't like that. He does enough for me to get excited about him on a political level. Let me be clear, Joe Rossinello. He's not going to do a damn thing about abortion. I don't care what Father Stephen Imperato says, and I love Father Stephen Imperato. Donald Trump's not doing anything about abortion. He just said it in the debate. He just said it in the debate.
No, I heard it. He just said that he's for the abortion pill, which is a disaster.
It's a disaster.
A
So you can forget
disaster.
about the
Hurting
abortion
women.
issue.
Hurting women. You're
Right.
basically allowing a woman to be a doctor who doesn't know. If a woman takes that pill in, like, say, the 9th week, the 13th week, you have a fairly large size child in your body. It doesn't just pass through your system. And here's another thing. You go to the emergency room, they may misdiagnose it. You die. You die. And
Right.
and they just said it in the debate. 2 out of 3 of the abortions conducted in America are through that pill.
pill.
That pill is dangerous. You don't have the ability. No one does. You're not a doctor. It's like basically like writing a subscription for medication for yourself. You didn't go to med school. You don't
Right.
know what that does to you. And yet they're perfectly fine with it. That's going to hurt women infinitely more than putting some type of limitation on abortion. It's disgusting. Again, ill-informed people.
Well, the thing is,
Ill-informed people.
totally right, Joe Resinello. Totally right. No question about it. People knew, if people bothered to want to know about abortion rather than just listening. Again, you gotta take off the things, the earphones. You gotta put it down. Stop listening to the propaganda. And why don't you go find out what actually occurs in an abortion? You want to know why they don't want that? You want to know why Planned Parenthood doesn't want women to see a sonogram? Because what they're going to see and what they're going to learn is, you know what? I might have to question my view on this because it's actually a baby. But getting back to Trump for a second, okay? He pushes their buttons in ways that, okay, he's going to be better on abortion. He's going to be better on judges. All right, so I'm going to vote for him. But then on that political level, if he abolished the Department of Education, I'm going to be a happy guy. I think a lot of people should be. If he radically transforms the CIA, which many people say JFK wanted to do the same thing, got him killed, and Nixon wanted to do the same thing, and that was what the famous book that was written, The Silent Coup, Nixon was gotten rid of. Okay, the same way they tried to do with Trump. Those things that could get you excited is when he's going to go after. I guess let's use the words that they use. Go after the deep state. But then you got to ask yourself, what is the deep state?
Knows those politicians don't really run jack shit. It's what Trump likes to call the deep state. The deep state real. It's real. There's a bunch of people that run the government.
Who are they, though?
Well, there's a lot of money. There's heads of immense corporations that have incredible financial control and influence on politicians. This is the reason why lobbyists are some of the richest fucking people in the country. Like some of the richest real estate is in Virginia, right outside of D.C., and a lot of it's lobbyists. The amount of money that they pour into campaigns and pour into making sure that their agendas are being met and that their businesses get to grow because of regulations or lack of regulations or tariffs or lack of tariffs or whatever the fuck they're trying to do. That's who runs things really and makes decisions. And then the politicians keep us embattled in these social squabbles. It's like when Kamala Harris had this guy in a dress with a beard come to the White House recently, and she's oh my God, for Pride Month, come on in, you're in the White House. Like that is to accentuate the social squabbling. It's so people get fired up, yay, queers are in the White House. And then other people go, what the fuck are queers doing in the White House? It's like that. This is a part of the grand plan to keep people not paying attention to the really important issues.
Joe, he nailed it right there. That is American politics defined. It is made to keep people divided, and that is what the rich want. You know that the Koch brothers, they give to both parties. They're above the political fray. Do you know that 7 out of 10 of the richest counties in America, look it up in Wikipedia, 6 are in Virginia, 1's in Maryland, all around the Beltway. That's who controls the government, people. Get that through your head. Do you actually think that a mailman that's elected to Congress is going to tell a billionaire what to do? You are dreaming. It doesn't work that way. Right. I invite all of you to look at an interview with Tulsi Gabbard and Russell Brand, and she breaks down a day in the life of someone in Congress. And all she does, she says that congressmen do is go to lunch and meet with who? Donors.
Donors.
What does that say to me? That's their constituency. If you were their constituency, they would be meeting with you. Instead, they have some kid that's 20 years old, that's an intern, that looks at your stupid letter and sends you a form letter back, or takes your letter and puts it in the shredder and laughs as he or she reads it. That is what they think of your letter. Right. And I know that because I did that. I worked for the third most powerful person in the state of New Jersey when I got out of college, the majority leader of the assembly in New Jersey, Paul DiGaetano, third in line for to be the governor. I read the letters. These people meet with the donors. Right. That tells me everything I need to know. And what he just said about the divide, that's why there's Fox, and that's why there's CNN, and that's why they want everyone arguing about something that's never going to be resolved. And they know it. They are afraid that if they didn't do that, and actually people saw what it was for real, they lose their job. So they have to keep you distracted. That's why they're censoring on social media. That's why they want to shut down X. That's why they want to shut down Rumble. They have shut down Rumble in France and in Brazil. And also, X had to make concessions to stay open in Brazil because it threatened Lula, who's the president. Right. You can't have that. When the lie loses its power, you have to censor. Does that represent you? Does that make you free? All these countries, oh, we're democracies. We're by the way,
Macron just dissolved parliament.
That's France. Right. By the way, Zelensky took away that he what's it called? He controls the press. We're spending our money for a country that controls the press and stopped elections. There's no more elections. He said, in the name of war, we can't have elections right now. Is that a democracy?
Right.
By the way, did CNN tell you that? Glenn Greenwald told me that. Right. A liberal gay guy. Because he's truthful. And that's who I listen to. So why don't you try to listen to some other sources, connect some dots, and have some original thoughts? Instead, you listen to friggin' Jesse Waters, who's reading from a friggin' teleprompter, or you listen to Jake Tapper, who's doing the same damn thing, and they own the same suit.
Well, listen. Oh, by the way, so I'm getting a recap from our producer on the debate. So we'll just let's cut to that real quick.
This country, and I want to keep it open. And we did a great job by shut it down. Wait a minute, Joe. Let me shut you down for a second, Joe, just for 1 second. I don't wear masks like him. Every time you see him, he's got a mask. He could be speaking 200 feet away from it. He shows up with the biggest mask I've ever seen. You could never have done the job that we did. You don't have it in your blood. You could have never done that job. I know how to do the job. I know how to get the job. Well, you didn't. It's on the ballot in the court. I don't think so. In the court. Well, there's nothing happening there. Donald, would you don't know her now. Make sure you, in fact, let people know you're a senator. I'm not going to answer the question. Why would you answer that question? The question is, the radical left. Will you shut up, man? Listen, who is on your list, Joe? Who's on your list? Gentlemen, not by much. I beat him a whole hell of a lot. I'm here standing facing you all, buddy. Pocahontas would have left 2 days early. You would have lost every primary. All he knows how to do is Tuesday. You got very lucky. Here's the deal. I got very lucky, and you get very lucky tonight as well. The president, can you let him finish, sir? He doesn't know how to do that. He has. You'd be surprised. You pick. You'd be surprised. The wrong guy, the wrong night at the wrong time. Listen, you give him better health care at a much lower price. Because by the way, he doesn't know how. He doesn't know how to do that. Fixed it.
And that's pretty much the way the debate went. That's how it went. Any final thoughts tonight, Joe Rossinello, on debate
Well,
night
I'll
in
tell you what,
America?
I think we covered a lot. I mean, a takeaway for me from tonight is the RFK piece. Why isn't RFK up there? Today is a debate. He's going to be on the ballot. He should have been there. If it was fair, he would have been.
Right.
And he's not. I think that says something. And I'll be honest with you. Also, I think what we touched upon, Joe, about connecting dots, looking to original sources, not listening to just a people in your echo chamber, listening to sources, to be honest with you, subject matter experts in certain issues. It's not about the party. It's about the people. It's about you. It's about your family. It's about your kids. It's not about the party. The party doesn't care about you. Get it through your head. You think Joe Biden's taking one for the team, for the Rossinello family? He could care less. He'd walk over my dead body on the sidewalk. Start thinking about you. Start doing your own research. Turn off the news. Stop listening to the podiums. And frankly, look at your checkbook. Look at your refrigerator. You'll be better off. And you'll be happier.
You'll be happier. You won't get as frustrated, and the vein won't pop out of your forehead like it does with me every time I watch the news. That's why I don't watch the news. Thank you, everybody, for joining us here at the Frontline with Joe and Joe. We went a little bit late tonight, but remember, we go live 9 o'clock Eastern time across social media, on X, on Facebook, on YouTube. Please, wherever you're seeing this video, particularly on X, like, subscribe, share. Do all that fun stuff. Help us out. We got our social media up on our page. We have our interviews, our radio interviews with some fabulous people on fabulous topics, where if you like our style, we bring that to our interview show. So take a look at those. And if you like those, share those also. Thanks once again. We'll see you next week. Or no, I'm sorry, we won't see you next week. We'll see you in 2 weeks. But remember, until the next time, that our conversation is